But it's definitely a must.
But I smell a little mustiness too.
A good dehumidifier in here might just.
Hmm.
Didn't either sound out.
Okay, we're live.
Okay.
Yep.
It is 6:32. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Consent agenda, recommended action, approve the items below which are included in the consent agenda. 6A, the meetings from October 6th, meeting minutes from October 6th. 7B, long-term teaching staff appointment. 7C, long-term teaching assistant appointment. And 8A, the special education packet. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yes.
Thank you, Martha. Second, Colleen.
Yes.
Okay. Any exclusions, any discussion? If not, are we voting here?
Yes. 7 yes.
7 yes, 0 no, the consent agenda passes. Good the cause, do we have any?
Oh, let me check real quick. Nothing.
Nothing, so we'll go right on to reports. We just had the audit committee, just had a briefing from Tom Telling. And now Tom will address the board with an overview of the 2019-2020 annual audit. It's all yours, Tom.
Tom, you have to unmute. You have to click the unmute button.
Roger, it's showing everyone is mute, but then I can hear the people, so I'm not really sure what's going on.
Yeah, it's just,
Okay,
I think Tom's on now.
okay, sorry. Good, that was my fault. Yeah, nice to see everyone. And we're all doing Zoom meetings now. It'd be nice to be there with you, but you know, this is, we're all doing a lot of these now, but I will, let me just give you a quick overview. I know you're all busy. If you all have the audit reports, if you go to page 13, I can kind of walk you through what happened during the year. You know, it was obviously an unusual year. So this is the statement of revenues and expenditures. It's essentially the profit and loss statement. If you look at the very first column, the general fund, this is like the operating fund. You can see if you go down to the bottom, the third line from the bottom, you see that there is an excess of revenues over expenditures for the year of 692,000, which is healthy. Is actually, if you kind of follow it up, is actually $1.3 million, but you transferred 669,000 from the general fund over to the capital projects fund. In the capital projects funds, you had well, you were talking about before, the BOCES projects that are going on. So if I stay in that column of the capital project fund, you see that it had a big loss, but not in reality. Under the expenditures, about halfway down, 7.6 million of expenditures during the year. There's no revenue to offset it. That's because you took out a bond anticipation note, and bands, it's just an accounting thing, are not considered, because they're short-term liability, they're not considered income. But essentially, you were able to offset that loss. So I would go back to looking at the 692,000, that bottom line, I'll take you to the budget to actual statement to kind of give you a little bit of idea of what happened. That's over on page 46. The middle column is the actual. If you go right down to the bottom, there's that same number again. In this case, we're comparing what you budgeted to what actually occurred. If you go about a third of the way down, you see that you budgeted 19,446,000. That's the second column. And for revenue, if you go just above that line, 520,000 of that budget was money that was an appropriation from the year before. You were using funds from the year before to cover your expenses. You didn't have to use funds from the year before. As you can see under the actual column, there's a negative there. That's because even though the total revenue is down, the expenses are down. As it was an unusual year, you can see if you go to the second line from the bottom, total expenditures as budgeted was 19,466,000. What actually occurred was 18,298,000. And if you just kind of go up along those, you can see that like teaching costs are down, employee benefit costs were down, and programs for children with handicap conditions, those costs were down. So this is sort of a look at what happened versus what you had budgeted to happen. Let me take you over to page 11. I think this is another important report to kind of get your arms around. This is the balance sheet. I'll kind of give you a second to get over there. If you go all the way out to the total, you have you're including all your funds. The capital project fund is in the middle there. Anyways, if you go to the total, you see you have 18,885,000 of assets. Most of it is in cash, the 15 million, the very top line. I'd point out that if you go to the middle column, the capital projects fund, we've got 11,800,000 in cash. That's because you took out the bond anticipation note. That's under the liabilities. That's about halfway down, 18,585,000. And if you remember, under the expenditures, you had about 7 million of expenditures, so you still have a lot of that bond anticipation notice sitting in cash at that moment. So where do I want to go with this? I would go back to the general column. Go to the third line down from the bottom. The second line from the bottom is the fund balance. It's in the general fund. That's 6 million of assets versus 871,000 of liabilities. So that's a very healthy fund balance. The line up above it, the portion of it that's not assigned to anything or restricted, is 2.3 million. So that is you're in a situation where there's like the state, there's a question of the 20%. It's probably good to have a good fund balance. I don't mean to be making anything other than pointing out numbers, but that is over the 4% rule, which I think maybe you're all familiar with. So let me take you to the 4% rule is, if you go to page 50, the New York State real property tax law states that your unassigned fund balance shouldn't exceed 4% of the next year's budget. I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers and stuff, but halfway down, you can see the budget for 2021 is 19,978,000. 4% of that is 799,000 versus where you're at the 2.384 million. So that is essentially a finding, which is over on page 55. And I'll make another comment. We probably do about 10 school districts, and I'd say almost all of them are in the same kind of a situation where they're over the 4% rule. In your case, you're at 11.9%. Okay, I'm just pointing that out to you. I'm going to make you flip some pages again. I would go back to page 12. Just one other thing to point out, which I think is useful for decision making. This is the balance sheet. The very first column is the total governmental funds. We kind of looked at this before with the 18 million of cash. In this case, you can see there's the bond anticipation note, 18 million, total liabilities of 20 million, and the fund balance is a negative 2 million. If you go over to government-wide, that fund balance goes to a negative 41 million, which sounds like a very scary number. If you look, you have, in this case, you bring in the land and buildings and equipment at its cost, less accumulated depreciation of 20 million. Total assets end up at 46 million. Total liabilities end up at 75 million. I'm way over in the far right column. If you look, there's a $52 million total liability for other post-employment benefits. That is what is driving everything into having this deficit. And the other post-employment benefits is that is an actuarially computed liability. It's the health insurance for your retired people, and essentially you and everyone else. It's unfunded, and you're kind of on a pay as you go, and everybody seems to be fine, covering that cost. It's a liability that will go over people's lifetime. So it's not something that's ever just going to come due at a particular moment. But that is well, let me just show you very quickly, and then I'll stop droning on. But if you go to page 43, this is a footnote that has the information from the actuary as to how they you can go over to 42. It's got page 42 has got their variables. They're using an inflation rate of 2.2%, salary increases of 3.25. These are their variables that they use to come up with life expectancy of a liability of the 52 million, and it can swing. I'm back on page 43. About halfway down, you can see if you just change the discount rate, say the inflation rate, they're using 3.5%. If it goes to 2.5%, the liability goes up. If it goes to just one swing to increase to 4.5%, the liability goes down to 44 million. So it's an actuarially computed number. So it's kind of it's an estimate. Would be a good way to put it. So I will. I feel like I just kind of did a whirlwind tour through all of this. I'll kind of back off and see, where if I've generated any questions or where you'd like to, if there's anything you'd like me to go over with you. The numbers. I put everybody to sleep. Sorry.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
I guess it's I can't hear. Is that me?
No, that's me. So now you can hear. So everybody said, thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
I can see Roger's talking, but I can't.
Oh, you can't hear still?
What have I done? I hope you were able to hear me.
We were able to hear
You
you.
were?
Yes.
Phew, okay. I don't know. I have my volume on. I don't know if my speaker.
Any ideas why he can't hear us?
No.
I can't tell, Roger. I can't tell how to.
Well, so we have no other questions for Tom. I can let him know that some other way.
Tom, can you hear me?
Yes, there we go.
It's Roger's computer,
It's my computer?
apparently.
Okay.
I don't think there's any questions on this end, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Can you hear?
Apparently not.
All right, I'm going to try leaving and try coming back in again. Otherwise, I think I'm not going to be able to answer questions. I'm going to try leaving.
Somebody want to write out a sign for me?
I said, thank you, Tom. You put it in the chat. I saw that. But he might not see it.
Nobody's worried about a $41 million liability, correct? Because it's all just,
As I said to him.
I like that we got like 2 point something.
Right, that's
actual
money.
And I wanted to add unrestricted, where we at 2.3.
how's that, Tom? Can you hear now?
Awful lot of problems with that much.
He's not muted again.
You still can't hear us?
You can hear it.
You're on mute now.
We're good.
There, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, good.
Sorry.
We've decided that we are without questions here.
Okay, good.
All right.
Good.
So thank you for the presentation, Tom. We really appreciate it. We thank you for the thorough job, you and your associates.
Yeah, well, we very much appreciate, you've got a great school district. We appreciate the opportunity and, all right, I'm sorry I took up so much of your time.
Okay, we don't want to see you
Have a
skip
meeting.
mileage, Tom.
Okay, good. See you, everyone.
It's always great to see you every year.
He and Colleen are both gone.
Colleen's gone? Oh, okay.
There's an empty chair. All right, let's stick with the finances, treasurer's report.
Okay, so you have the September one, you'll look, again, total balance from previous months, 13 million. 11 of that is in the cash sweep. We're at this time of year where our property taxes are coming in. September is the busiest part of that, where the majority of it comes in. We are still getting in for October, and they have until middle of November to really send to us, and then it gets turned over to the you can see that it's very similar to previous years in terms of where we are come September by generating our revenue from our tax base. You'll see that we have about $547,000 in outstanding checks, a little less than last month. Last month was a little over 700,000. And that was largely attributed to when checks were sent out, and that was at the end. We had our big warrant at the end of August, so you can see that when you look at it, we do have still some outstanding checks from June. I don't know if you've noticed that, small amounts, but typically if those, looking at those amounts, I would say they're scholarships that still have not been.
That's what they are.
In fact, all of those June ones are connected to scholarship funds, all dated on the same date, so. It is not unusual for us to, in a couple of months, get a request saying, oh, I lost the check, this and that, can you reissue me another one? It happens every year. And then you'll see the big ones this time around are BOCES payments that are still outstanding. You can see that was towards the end of September, 322 and then 165. That's really the bulk of it, and that's, those payments are it's our insurance and just starting our monthly payments to BOCES for the services that they provide us. Any questions on the treasury report?
Yes.
Okay.
Excuse me. Why is this year's ending balance so much larger than last year's at this time?
We got that, and Tom alluded to that. We had that $18 million van that we got, and it's still kind of, we're working it down as we're paying off our capital project. So we still have a sizable amount. I think we have about $7 or $8 million still from that van directed for the capital project.
Okay.
Tying to, this is the time of year where we're getting our property taxes in as well. So that it will show up larger than previous year because of that ban. In a year's time, you'll see that that will not be the case. We'll be back to kind of normal. We won't be sitting on millions of dollars in our cash sweep, from a van. We'll actually be hopefully paying back or starting to pay back our capital project.
Thank you.
Any questions on the treasury report?
Thank you. Budget status.
So I gave you a number of reports here, and I won't go over every single one. It was more for your information. You'll see that I provided a monthly expenditure overview, a monthly revenue overview. I also included this time, for the first time, a quarterly review. And that's really a 3-page document that kind of breaks it down in terms of where we are. So when you look at it, looking at it first with the monthly, you'll see that expense-wise, we're down. And you see where that favorable is. That means we have not spent as much at this point in time than we did last year. One of my other ones basically said that we've spent about 15% of our annual budgets this current, so far, compared to about 20% last year. And that's, for, some, largely, the reasons why we are, with summer school, we did not spend as much on summer school because we could not have in-person summer school, only for extended school year students with IEPs. And that was limited. I think we had, I know bus-wise, we had 9 kids that were being transported. So we did not have the full summer school program that we typically have, which means we weren't busing as much, even though we were delivering meals. It still was less than that. The start of this year, we're seeing, we don't have a lot of the extra duties or things like that we normally pick up. Sports have been reduced as well, so we're not seeing transportation costs there. So really, it's a continuation from the springtime when we had our complete shutdown, and expenses just dropped. Again, kind of goes back to what Tom was saying, where we are with our fund balance as a result. The $1.3 million in excess from revenue to expense. So this is sort of a, kind of that continuation there. And the fact that when you look at it too, when you look at revenue, our revenue is about $23,000 under. You'll see that's 84% of our annual budget compared to 84.0 versus 84.6. That's basically a wash when it comes to it. What kind of, in one of my reports, it shows that we are unfavorable by like $16 million for the month of September. But that's more of an accounting thing, and I mentioned that last time, is we kind of book our property taxes, and we say, okay, we're gonna bring in, $16.7 million, which is true. In the end, by springtime, we will have all of that, whether it's coming from the individual homeowners or ultimately whatever is left, the county does make us whole come March, April. They send us a check for the remaining amount and then they go after the homeowners in terms of it. But this year, we basically booked it in August as opposed to September. So you see that as a negative for the month of September. It's just because it's an accounting thing, not an actual, or $16 million in the hole. You'll see contractual unfavorable, about $165,000, and that's tied to, again, just when we pay our annual service agreements, things like that, tied to capital projects as well. So really, contractual is the only unfavorable there. When it comes to revenue side, you'll see it's favorable all across the board. When it comes to in terms of our revenue coming in, and that's, again, a large portion of that is for property tax. 86% of our revenue comes from that. Just thinking about it, our property taxes, $16.7 million. Our state aid is about $3 million, a little over $3 million. So when it comes to our revenue, we're virtually guaranteed that we're going to get 85% of our revenue, and then everything else kind of trickles in, which puts us in, again, for us as a district, we are in a good spot because of that, because of our nice, healthy tax base. Questions on any of the monthly expenditures?
On the period, it's the lower right-hand corner. I know it's before your time, but 2019 looks really skewed.
Which
For
report?
It's a monthly expenditure report.
Okay, the expenditure. Yeah, when you look at it, you see that, yeah, absolutely, salaries, $8 million
Yeah.
versus where we are. It is very possible, as I'm finding with this system, is the fact that looking back, it might have been where they put it, forecast 5. I give them all the data and they upload it. And I've had to kind of go, a couple times I've had to say, oh, you need to adjust this, you need to adjust that. So that would be my guess.
Okay.
Looking at that, because right, everything else is pretty consistent, about $1.1, $1.2 million, and then that $8 million. So that's one where you need to look at it and say, okay, you put something in the wrong spots on that portion.
Thanks.
Yep.
You happy with the software?
Yeah, I had another superintendent ask about it, and I gave him my, yes, and it does a lot. I don't think I've only scratched the surface of it in terms of what it can do. I just did a webinar late last week on cash flow and things like that, and very helpful building that cash flow and when you're looking at a business model. But when I look at it in terms of us, I know that 85-86% of our revenue is coming from property tax. That's going to be pretty consistent unless our tax base collapses, which means something happens to the market here in my classes where the value of homes drop out, which is, I guess, always possible. Seems unlikely, but that could be, and then we'll be in a different situation there. But yeah, it is very helpful, and it's really just scratching the surface as to what it can do in terms of projections and things like that going forward, looking at historical and projecting out. As I said in previous meetings, I'm already looking at next year's budget and starting to build that and look at numbers and kind of the known associated costs that, you know, our contracts with the unions, we know for the most part. The teachers one, it's more of a, it's not as concrete because it's tied to the CPIU, but we can have a nice indicator in terms of where the CPIU is right now, and give a good sense. So already looking at, you know, that in terms of planning ahead and seeing, okay, where is our revenue going to be as opposed to what are our known costs and where we might need to start looking at ways to, you know, balance it. The goal is to not wait until April, well, you know, in March, we technically have to have a budget, but my goal is not to have, you know, edition after edition and this and that, say, here you go, you know, I'm working on it now so that come December, come January, when, you know, it's first, you know, showing you, I'm already honing it in so that you have a nice true sense, realistic sense, not a, oh my goodness, you're $1 million short because we just threw out inflated numbers. My goal is to, you know, that first draft comes out is, here you go, it's pretty close to it. It's gonna need some tweaking because state aid is not in and things like that, and some things aren't quite finalized, but for the most part, we should know by then what our contracts are, health insurance is, the big cost drivers, we will know come February. Any questions on the quarterly review? Again, that was, I really just wanted to kind of share that with you as, you know, information. You'll see quarterly review of revenue. Prior year was at 95%. We're a little over 100%. Again, that's more about when we put things in as revenue. A little slightly down on state resources, but not by much. We're up on other federal sources there for revenue as well. Questions on quarterly? Any questions?
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dane, and thanks to Lori for all of her work with the tax collection.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next item up is information for the board. There's 2 files attached, the extracurricular activity accounts summary, and then the 48-hour evaluation letter.
I appreciated that flow chart in there. That was helpful.
Thanks. I'll do a little bit more explaining on that in my superintendent's report as well.
Then there's in the executive file, there is a retention and disposal schedule. Any questions? Also, Martha, I believe you attended a webinar.
I did.
As a leadership development webinar.
I believe that was the overall.
Okay. Any comments or any highlights you'd like to? There.
There were 3 speakers and the coordinator, Darcy DeColi, who some of us know from NISBA, and the 3 speakers were all Black men who were administrators of districts. I forget exactly, Rochester, maybe the superintendent of Rochester, and they were in their element, they were confident, they were comfortable, they were in charge, and they were Black. And it was such a neat experience. And they talked honestly about what it was like to be professionals in their positions and navigating a world that's not always easy for them. One man said that he needed to colonialize his language to succeed in his career, which I'm not exactly sure what it means, but I know what colonizers are. So I found it a really moving and deep webinar.
Thank you. Any questions on any of these items? If not, we'll go right into the superintendent.
All right, well, I'm going to put on my mask for this because I have to get up and move around. You know, this is a special week. Yes, everybody knows that?
Oh, yeah.
It's a special week. This is called New York State School Board Member Recognition Week. So School Board Recognition Week is October 19th to 23rd this year. And in honor of that, we have some awards for all of our board members. So I'm going to start by reading to you what the certificate says. It's a very nice framed certificate. And it says, this is honoring each of our board members for dedicated leadership in public education and continuing service to the children of the Lake Placid Central School District. And it does note how long you've been a board member on here. So
That measured in minutes.
well, we'll see how it looks on yours, right? So this first one is to our board president. That's Dr. Richard Preston, who's been a school board member from 2013 and is scheduled to go through 2021 and perhaps beyond.
And beyond.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Rick.
And the real award is Karen's cookies that she's passing out. She allowed me to do a taste test earlier, and I'm here to tell you that I approve of you all eating all those cookies because they are absolutely fabulous. So this next one is honoring our board vice president, and that is Mr. Daniel Marvin, who has been a school board member since 2017. Next, we honor Ms. Martha Pritchard Spear, school board member since 2018.
Congratulations, Martha.
Then Mr. Brian Liam Kennelly, school board member also since 2018. This one's hot off the presses. School board member in 2020. There we go.
Yeah.
And it should not go without saying that we have two school board members on Zoom who aren't here in the room with us. And that would be Colleen Locke. And Colleen,
Yes.
you want to wave? Yes, you want to remind us what year you started on the school board?
2018.
2018. So we have, that's 3 2018s. Yep, congratulations, Colleen.
you.
And Joan Hallett Valentine. And Joan, do you want to tell us when you started on the school board this time?
This time, or how many years I've been on the school board?
Well, you go ahead and tell us all of it.
Oh, I can't.
You've been on the school board 2011 and then 2017 to 2021.
There you go.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
You guys will have to make your own cookies.
Well, I'm stopping by in the morning, Karen.
Oh, excellent.
She'll save them for you.
Thanks, Roger.
Sure. Well, thank you and congratulations. A couple of cookies and a certificate doesn't do justice to all that you do and all of the time and effort and energy and really like the heartfelt care and concern that so many of you put into the school board work that you do. I know that when we have audit reports and budget status reports and treasurer's reports, I know you recognize that that this is so that you can uphold your responsibility to look out for the best interests of the school district, which you all do so well. So this is really just a small token of our appreciation for all that you do. Thank you very much. And I'm going to go on with my superintendent's report. So I'll share some news, and then I do want to try sharing my screen for a minute when I get around to it. So you'll bear with me as I work my way through the technology. But first, just some updates on what's going on in the schools. At the middle and high school, our students and teachers right now are adjusting to just the The curveballs that we throw at them right now, that's the construction challenges, and that includes the paving on School Street that some of you have driven through the School Street extension into the parking lot, and that has altered the bus drop off. And so now we have the buses dropping off students on the oval. We have students and staff parking on the oval. We've made a lot of changes in the way the morning and afternoon routines run. It's going relatively smoothly as well. And so I really appreciate everybody's cooperation, but it's certainly a change. And it's been real interesting to sort of observe it on a daily basis. So that's one thing. Some things are normal, like picture days coming up at the middle and high school, and that's coming up Thursday. So I imagine everybody's planning out their wardrobe for that day. We also have our athletic program is sort of running at kind of the peak of this fall season. It's a short fall season, but we have a lot of things going on. We have now modified games as well as varsity games being scheduled and played. That's modified and varsity cross country, soccer games. These are ongoing. This week, that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And we're also looking at many days next week that there are contests. So in some ways, it does feel like a normal school year today. The senior boys soccer players were honored at their home field during their game with Jay-Z, and the girls soccer team seniors were also honored last week. So that was a very nice ceremony and event for the kids on those teams to be honored for all that they've done for our school and for all that they've contributed to their teams.
Roger, I have to give those kids credit for being out there wearing a mask, trying to play.
Absolutely. So, and if you haven't had a chance to see, and really our spectator numbers are limited, so you probably wouldn't have a chance to see. All the kids who are playing soccer are wearing masks, and then the cross country runners as well are wearing masks. And it's not particularly easy to breathe when you're working as hard as those kids do on the soccer team, as hard as those kids run on the cross country trails. So it's, and I know some of us in here know that with their own children. So it's a challenge to adjust to this year, and give our kids, our coaches, a lot of credit for doing that, for making those adjustments.
Colder too, right? We had played the season going later.
Say it again.
Is it colder?
Yeah, right. Because the season didn't start until late, and so our games have started up really in the middle of October, and they'll be playing into the first weeks in November, which means we've missed the warm part of the fall, and now we're hitting the middle of the weather shift today in the rain, and yesterday in the rain. So yeah, right. Now, for speaking of soccer, I actually wanted to share with you a nice story. You may have seen it, you may not have. Maybe some of the people who are watching on our live stream have seen it. So I'm going to share my screen for a second if I can. Hold on. Not yet. I'm going to make one change. And I just wanted to play you a news story that involves our soccer team. And really, it features soccer players from another team during a game of ours. So let me play this story from, I believe this was a couple of days ago.
This home is equipped with Wi-Fi.
And there's a commercial too.
There's this
Sorry about
game
that.
time interneting room. So fun.
All right, here we go.
Now, the NBC5 Sports Desk, brought to you by Xfinity. The fact that high school sports were able to return this fall was already a huge win for so many athletes. But it's nights like these that sometimes it's more about the players that don't always make it on the stat sheet. But that would be the case for Saranac senior Will Herlock. Will has polio, a rare disease, yes. But he and his brother Sasha originally hail from Russia, where vaccines were not always available at the time the brothers were at a young age, and has kept Will from playing competitive high school soccer the way he would love to do it. But with the help of the Lake Placid Boys program and assisted by his brother, Will got to live out a dream of scoring a goal. Lake Placid playing it back to their goalie, setting up a direct kick for the Herlocks and putting Will right where he belongs on the score sheet.
It was a great feeling for our team and the opposing team to let us go out there and let me score a goal. It's a great feeling. Everyone helped me out this year. He works hard every day. Works as hard as us, and given the circumstances, and see it come down to one goal, it just means the world to him, means the world to me, and the team also, because they're always there for him. He's there for them.
Wally Placid did go down and score as well to make it a 1-1 game to start. It was a double win for Will's big night, as Saranac comes away victors, 3-1, your final.
So I just want to say thank you to our coach, Stuart Hemsley, and to our players for their role that they played in making that a very special night for, it was obviously a very special kid in his team. So other things to mention, I'll just keep on going. At Lake Placid Elementary School, this is typically the Halloween season. And of course it is, but it isn't, because there are going to be some changes. We won't be participating in a village parade this year, and that's because of the challenges of transporting an entire school to downtown. Just really can't be done right now, and the social distancing challenges. So the Halloween parade is going to be shifted and altered. It'll be at the elementary school, and so our students will be able to parade around in their costumes. Clearly, it won't be the same thing, but my understanding is that people are very, cooperative here, knowing that we have to make some changes, and looking forward to, still celebrating Halloween and seeing the students out in their costumes. So that's coming up. I'll tell you that the elementary school continues to make good use of its outdoor classroom space. And you probably have heard along the way, I know I've shared with you, that they have developed their outdoor classrooms as much as they can, both right around the school, which you can see if you're there, but also out in the woods along the trail. So I hope one day we get to observe the trail out there. I think it'd be a nice trip for the school board to go out on the trail. And then planning is underway at both schools for parent conferences. So parent conferences will be a little bit different this year too. They'll be like this, online conferences. We've done many Zoom, Google Classroom type online conferences this year, but this will be the first time we've done all of our parent conferences this way. That's scheduled for Monday, November 23rd, and that's the Monday before Thanksgiving. So we'll still be doing parent conferences, but in this virtual world. So that's what's going on in the schools. I did want to update you on the 48-hour rule that I talked about at our last meeting. And I know at our last meeting, I shared with you my great concern that the 48-hour rule was going to have perhaps a drastic impact on our ability to keep schools going. But I have some hopeful news that reflect changes since the last meeting. And the hopeful news comes out of the Essex County Health Department and their work with other county health departments and their interaction with the State Department of Health. So the State Department, the rules I shared with you last time were State Department of Health guidance rules. Well, the county health departments got together and recognized responsibilities and certain requirements. And one of those had to do with this presumed positive idea. This idea that if a test didn't come back in 48 hours, that they were supposed to act on presumed positive. So they really did speak out about that, and they shared that presumed positive, they were not supposed to be taking that kind of action on presumed positive. They were only supposed to be taking that kind of action, according to their own rules, on actual positive cases. And so they created that flow chart that I shared with you, that we shared with you in the information for the board. And what that flow chart really does is it recognizes that there are very few situations in which a delayed test result is going to lead to immediate isolate or trace or quarantine actions. And that's really only when a student or staff member sees a healthcare provider, has a test, the test result doesn't come back in, but the healthcare provider has made a determination that this person likely has COVID. Now, we haven't seen any of those kinds of recommendations yet. We could, but we haven't yet. So that's really the only case when the Essex County Health Department says they'll act on a presumed positive. Other than that, they've told us with those flowcharts that I shared with you that although we're responsible to let them know when we have presumed positive, or in other words, delayed results, they will likely not be acting on most of those unless we have that kind of situation. So that's a much different outcome than I was worried about and that I shared with you last time. So I'm glad to be able to tell you that. I'll also add in there that we have sometimes concerns when you cross over municipalities and governments. So I was able to participate in a meeting between the New York State Department of Health and other municipalities, including the health departments and including the school districts. And the State Department of Health said, they used this word, that such interpretations would be, in their word, acceptable to them. And so when I heard that word, I knew that this was something that we could count on. So as of now, 2 weeks since I shared that news with you, you'll note that while we have had some delayed test results, there have not been any county health department actions to declare people isolated or quarantined. So that's all good news. Other hopeful news is that there are state and regional efforts to introduce faster testing and faster turnaround times. And that comes out of our local hospital as well as out of the state. So Adirondack Health will soon be able to provide testing with lab results done in-house. This is with a new machine they have. And our local resident expert here assures me that 88 tests a day. They're promising 88 tests a day that can be turned around within the day. I believe it's 5 hours, something like that. So that's good news that we may not have to wait for these 2, really more like 3 days to get the results back from the New Jersey lab. And then the other piece of information is that New York State itself is making rapid test machines and kits available throughout the state. And that's partially targeted towards those cluster zones you may have been hearing Governor Cuomo talk about the last couple of weeks. But it's not limited to the cluster zones. It's also being put out there as options and opportunities for county health departments, local healthcare providers, and school districts. So while it remains to be seen, whether or not we're going to be able to access one of those machines, it could be that either as a school district we could access a machine, or within our region we might be able to collaborate with some of the other schools, healthcare providers, and perhaps county health departments to access a machine. So it might be another route to getting faster results. So glad I had more optimistic news for you this week than I did 2 weeks ago on that end. So that's everything from me. Any questions or comments based on anything I've said?
Roger, I just have a question for Rick in regard to the that potential 5-hour test. Rick, is that the PCR test?
I'm trying to think of.
The one that normally would take 3 to 5 days versus the rapid one?
Yeah, it's Rheonics is the company.
Okay.
I'm not sure of, although I just get reports on a daily basis.
Okay. No, it sounds like it's like one of the regular tests. They're just able to process it quicker.
Correct.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And in our weekly briefing, students are mentioned all the time that they are, I won't use the term first and foremost, but they're high priority on the testing list to make sure that we get good turnaround times.
Okay.
Dr. Garrett and our superintendent here have been working very hard to get that, get the children to the top of the list, which is great.
Thank you.
That's everything for me.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Linking goals with agenda. I'll hand you my small list.
I actually tried to go in and add some stuff in.
I noticed, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I might have plagiarized from you a few of them.
I thought there's stuff you guys are doing and nobody's calling it out.
Anybody have anything else? We might start to rotate this amongst people.
That's a great idea.
Next week, it's Dan Marvin. We'll think about that one.
Are we talking about Lincoln goals?
Yes.
Oh, you may have already said this, mine muted for a minute. I just think what Roger was talking about with the students getting back into sports, and maybe we were indirectly, as a result, but I just think it's great that the athletics are starting again and there's some normalcy. So whatever everyone's doing behind the scenes to make that happen, it's wonderful.
Anything else? If not, capital project update. There's the status report from October 13th. Any, other than things are looking good, any updates that either of you would like to share?
Just things are moving along.
Yeah, I mean, what you see outside is really like the big, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
The wall, the walkway.
Who we see on the
Yeah.
roofs?
I saw a guy just walk by, so he must be working.
Yeah, they're still out there. So
Should we open the window and ask them?
the roof, the roofers have been coming regularly. We had a follow-up meeting today. We have reports of what is still needed to be done. And we expect it to be done soon. We're probably the last thing that's going to get done is this roof over the new addition for the exit area for the auditorium. That seems to be held up on supplies, but again, cautiously optimistic that things are going well there.
They worked on the elementary school roof all weekend.
Yeah, I was wondering whether that was actually completed.
Yeah, even the drainage downspouts were completed. So if you go by, it's a new blue roof, new blue metal roof, and yeah, it went on this weekend, and then earlier this week they put in the drain system.
What's the timetable look like for the elevator?
You want to talk about the elevator a little bit? So we did finally have the elevator repair company arrive this week. Yeah.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yesterday. Yeah.
So McGee's is doing it.
McGee from Albany. Yeah.
I think it could be anywhere from what, 4 to 6 or 6 to 8 weeks.
So it all depends on whether or not those early predictions prove to be true. And the elementary school elevator could be done quite quickly, but the middle and high school one. So what we're doing is we not only have a new company coming that has come in, but we also have them reassessing to see if we need the extensive work that was originally we were originally informed about by the company that does our usual assessments here. So it's sort of a what's that?
And that was a structural problem.
Yeah, it has to do with the
jack.
The hydraulic lift that's embedded in the ground at the very bottom. So yeah.
Part of it is they won't really know until they open it up and see what's down there, how it's encased in terms of what they need to do.
Yeah. So I haven't heard it in the last. I haven't heard any feedback in the last couple of days. So if they have discovered anything, we don't know about it yet.
Any other questions on the budget? On change orders, there are three there. Anything special on those?
I don't think so. Any questions about any of them?
I think a number of these are just tied to the auditorium.
Yeah.
Electric work. All right, if not, let's go on to the discussion phase. First item up is the dashboard. Martha, would you like to take this?
Sure. You all can see the dashboard draft as it exists now with the exceptional graphic design talents of Daniel Cash. Yay! Making it look so much better than it looked before. I had a conversation with Dana about it today, and we agreed that on the bottom half of the page where there's a list of school tax rate comparisons and a graph, that we need one or the other. So probably we'll just take the graph and replace the list with something else, like maybe some enrollment related statistic was Dana's suggestion, or something else. I don't know what would be appropriate, but that would give us 4 measures of different things that we want to pay attention to. And once again, I want to bring up the point that we have the second lowest tax rate in the area. And I just think that's an unutilized resource for us in some way.
I think you're right.
I don't know if it's the board's job to capitalize on that, but maybe somebody could.
I think it could be very helpful in our budget presentations in March and April,
Oh,
in
absolutely.
May. Mhm.
Well, obviously everyone understands that it's reflective of our real estate in Lake Placid too. I mean, you can't compare our median house range in Lake Placid to a median house range in one of the upper ends. So
Any other questions, comments on the dashboard? Thank you for all your work, you two.
More.
Give him more work.
Let's just stay with 4.
Next up is the board's self-assessment. In the attachments is the survey itself and the responses. I last year took the liberty of rolling these over to an Excel sheet. I believe I sent that out to everyone. If anyone has any suggestions on how to better tackle this, please let me know. I just randomly picked the 50%. If anything fell under the 50 percentile, then that sort of became a highlighted item. And I believe there are 5 or 6 highlighted items. I had the opportunity to be able to compare these to last year, and only one is the same. So I'm not sure what to think of that. Anyhow, so just briefly going down through, the board periodically discusses where the district should be headed 3 or 4 years in the future. That was a 50%, with 1 disagree, 1 strongly agree, and 4 agreeing. And the same score for the board is actively involved at both the local and state levels in advocating for education. We'll come back to these in just 1 minute here. Down at the bottom of the page, at least once every 2 years, our board has a retreat or special session to examine our present performance as a board. And then the lowest scoring, which had 3 agrees and 1 disagree, and then two no votes. If the board thinks that an important group of constituents is likely to disagree with an action to be considered, the board will make sure to learn how they feel before making a decision. And let's see, board members increase their leadership skills by participating in developmental activities within and outside the school district. And that is the last one.
Who is serving as a mentor, Daniel? Martha. I thought.
He's easy. He already knows.
How about that?
So going back to, I just wanted to get to the open-ended. Seems some board members know more of what's going on than others, not sure how or why. Onboarding, really need to master and educate new board members. All board members need to interact, participate in discussion. If we have the opportunity to have a local school resource officer again, and if we are divided. The work of anti-racism is very difficult for the community, and there will be mixed levels of priority assigned to the work by individual board members. This all comes under, you can read it. It's if you can identify any issues that might impact members of the board working successfully as a unified team. Let's see, the others you can read for yourself. Any comments on, we'll take these first things first, so we won't be long on these, but the board periodically discusses where the district should be headed 3 or more years into the future. Any comments or feedback on thoughts on that? Why that's, why someone would disagree with that? And it's confidential. We don't know who disagreed, but you may have a comment on that. Anybody?
I don't really have a sense of us 3 to 5 years out.
It's made more difficult in the last 5 or 6 months, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I thought it was pretty clear earlier on, you know, we had a capital project, we have transition of leadership. Those are two big challenges. Then you throw this COVID, and it's like.
Yeah.
So.
and I think again, we do a short term with the building administrators giving their reports on an annual basis. And some of those project out.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as board goals, I'm not sure.
Now, if you go back to the strategic plan, which was probably 2014, 2015, that did just this. And it did project out 5 years or more, and it did identify these goals. And I think we've been working on those for all this time. But maybe after a while, it's time to revisit that. So.
And that is on our goals to review the strategic plan and see if it needs to be updated. So. The board is actively involved at both the local and state levels in advocating for education legislation. Any comments on that?
We had talked about sending people over to the order meeting and over to the town board and village board. Have we done? I mean,
Say which number you're on. I'm scrolling through, but it looks.
It's sort of a voluntary thing.
okay.
I know that Roger and Karen have gone to quite a few order meetings. I've been to a couple. But it seems like we go to the meeting and we're just a guest. It's not like, we have the opportunity to advocate for anything unless there is an agenda item or an issue that we'd like to discuss. And that the opportunity very well may arise with this whole university games and all the construction, the various projects. One never knows again. I know Colleen's been taking a role with, you were on the webinar with Stefan, correct?
Yes.
I think that's great.
Yeah, nice. And there's generally a legislative day. Probably won't be this year. In fact, that might have been, was that in replacement, Colleen, do you know?
They've had a couple that they've invited various. It's been very limited, the number of people that can attend. I was not able to get into a second option with Chuck Schumer. So there've been a couple of different opportunities, but in a weird way, it's kind of like first come, first serve. So, but we've had a couple of opportunities. I don't know if it was in place of a legislative day, but I don't recall getting any information on that either.
That's usually a Wayne Rogers type
Yes.
of thing. So. And then those of us who can attend the forum used to be at the Crown Plaza. Was it there last year? Yes.
I believe so.
With Billy Jones, Dan Steck, and Betty Little. That's always informative. So be interesting to see this year what that turns out to be. So there's some advocacy going on. It's more one-way conversation, I guess. We're on the receiving end, but I know that we do have the opportunity with our 3 local politicians to ask questions and put forth our questions.
I would just add that they were very receptive to working with school districts on this 48-hour rule. And had a couple of conversations with Betty Little over this. And again, I don't know exactly, why some of this changed, but I know that there were many, many people, including our legislators, both assembly people, Dan Steck and Billy Jones, and our Senator Betty Little, who were concerned and raising some flags for others.
So there is activity.
Yeah.
This one found its way because there were 5 agrees and then 1 no answer. It's about the board retreat every 2 years. I know we did not have one last year. Did we have one the year before? I'm trying to think. I believe
Yes.
we did. We brought in the NISBA representative and had it in-house. So we'll be looking at that again this year. I shouldn't say this year, this school year, 2021, most likely.
This year, we could also do the same virtual background,
Sure.
like a treat.
I did that for the BOCES meeting. I put a field in back of me and sitting on a couch. And I got a kick out of that one. The board thinks that an important group of constituents is likely to disagree with an action to be considered. The board will make sure to learn how they feel before making a decision. Any comments on this? This is our lowest scoring one.
I've been thinking about that one in regard to the diversity, equality, and inclusion work group. I know there's people out there who think that's not a good idea. And I would really love it if they came to this work group and participated in some way. And we could, talk in 360 degrees about it. I don't know how to reach them other than what we've done or to engage them. I want them to feel like, yes, come and be heard.
I think you're doing it right now if they're listening. So, otherwise, it's the I guess the norm to sit back and wait, and then once decisions have been made, then there's complaints. So
Yeah, and the school resource officer, I thought was good. I see that note right there.
Right.
But like, we had so many meetings on it and no one showed up. I feel like I was really just like, if there was any strong voice in the community, I probably would have sided with them. There wasn't.
sure. That's a good point.
Like, I don't know, it was brought up in the newspaper, it was on Facebook. I mean, I don't know.
The other topic that's coming up that we may very well, I would like support from is a garage.
Yeah,
The Order
absolutely.
garage. And, let's get some input from our constituents and see what their feelings are rather than just gliding along with it. So I think that's up to us to just, I guess, light that fire as well and ask opinion of people we know. So, anything else on that particular topic? Board members increased their leadership skills by participating in developmental activities within and outside the school district. That was 6 agreed, so it really wasn't, had a potential of 12 points, so it only gained 6. But any comments? If not, I think we take advantage of the NISBA opportunities. Been a little stress this year with everything being virtual. I don't think any of us wanted to travel to New York virtually, but we wanted to really go there for the conference. Any other comments on there? And I just have one comment on the, it seems like some board members know more of what's going on than others. That may very well be true. I didn't fill this out, so it's not me. Disclaimer.
Just disclaimer. I got 2 questions into that survey. And I was like, I don't know.
So not sure how or why. I think the not sure how, guess it is maintaining communication with both Karen and Roger. And, you know, Martha, you probably know more about finances by talking to Dana than some of us do. Dan and I have the opportunity, like everybody does, to be on our attendance is mandated. Yours is optional to come to the agenda setting meeting. And so we may appear to know more about these agenda items because we're in an agenda setting meeting. And it's not that we're in a confidential situation and Roger's just spewing out everything about it. It's not that way at all. It's just the same information that you're getting, but we may know it ahead of time. But everybody is invited to those. If you feel like you're left out on something, please let myself know or Dan or Roger.
And we're always open to in-depth conversations when you feel like you're just not understanding something or you don't have enough context or background. Feel free to reach out and be happy to spend some time talking about it.
I do have to say that I have personally gone in numerous times just to meet with Roger when I needed clarity. And it's been really, very helpful.
Yeah.
Kind of on that topic, I wouldn't want to be the last to know if there was like some sort of COVID outbreak in our school.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the flow chart. I didn't really see how we'd be notified or what point along in that stage.
Yeah, you're not in there because that flow chart was written by the Essex County Health Department.
Yeah.
Right. So you would be relying on me.
Okay.
And my wonderful other brain, or maybe main brain, let's say, who actually is the one who usually says, "Have you told the school board this?" And I appreciate that.
Yeah. The other comment that I might have, it says all board members need to interact and participate in discussions, and I'll put that on myself. In sitting through, I think it was a leadership conference last year, that was one of the main emphases. It is the president's responsibility to make sure that everybody interacts. I'm not going to go over and stand next to Liam and say, "Come on, have anything to add?" But certainly affording people the opportunity to do that. And I felt like I began doing that and then like anything fell off. So I'll put that back on my radar and make sure that, outside of calling people out, which I don't like to do, I feel as if we are mature and
Which I
adults. And
appreciate, by the way.
if we have something to say, we'll interject. But there are some people that like just to watch and absorb things. So, like Colleen, where is she?
I went to plug my phone in.
In the middle of my dissertation.
No, I heard you.
Any other comments on the board self-survey? If anyone believes that some of that information needs to be put into goals, that is part of our objectives and goals, is to take certain items and put them as goals. I will put in, my responsibility that I will take to try to have people interact more. Joan, do you have anything to say about that?
I think you just said you weren't going to call anybody out.
High school English class, Joan, when they call you out when you're in the back of the room.
I know. I was always in the back. No, it's just interesting to see how people answered this. And I just wondered, why are there so many non-answered? So I was just,
Some of them may look at it and say, what does that mean? We could blame it on Daniel, but I think he didn't turn his in. So.
well, I think part of it could be like, it's a question that they have to think about and then they forget to go back before they hand it in. Or they just don't really know the answer, but it's concerning a little bit.
Thank you.
But the other thought on that is people didn't want to be known that they answered it a certain way. Also, you know, I opened them up and I didn't look at the answers. I just kind of shuffled them around so that I didn't know who sent what in, because I think people felt that it wasn't private enough.
Okay.
Do other districts use other format for this type of board review, that it's more anonymous in other formats?
I don't know. I mean, we could probably do a Survey Monkey or something, but it was what the board approved, that what was going to be used back when.
Okay.
But then, another thought on that is like I said, it was concerning is if they are afraid to answer. I mean, I don't know. I just think that we need to address a couple of those, quite a few of those, to just make sure that people are comfortable, because we do have open meeting laws and we're all entitled to our opinion and our knowledge of what goes on. And I don't know if I'm saying it right, but.
Well, I mean, like, the board members consistently maintain confidentiality regarding privileged executive session information. It is a bit concerning that two people did not.
Right, and that's exactly where I'm at on my other computer, my agenda computer. That's exactly where I'm at.
No answer.
Right, they mark no answer, correct.
Right.
Right, so 2, 2, and 2. So yeah.
So it wasn't like they read over. So
Maybe that means that everyone's very good at not, you know, there's, I don't know, that people do or not.
Yeah, true.
I mean,
That's a positive spin.
That's
obviously.
right.
well, I will tell you that I'm guilty of one of these. Or maybe more than one, because I would have answered, like, I don't know what other people do.
What does that mean?
Confidentiality.
I do have to address it, that is the lawyer in me being like, I don't know what you say outside of this.
You can either could confirm.
But
or
yeah,
deny.
so that, I think that's how I read it, that's why I said I would have changed some of the language of some of these. Because 14, for example, I know for 14 definitely would be no answer, because I just wouldn't have known. I don't know.
Which one is that?
Board members don't say one thing in private
Oh,
and another in public.
Asking yourself, really.
I guess I don't think I do, you know?
Well, perhaps before we go through this next year, we can sit down with you.
I would mind.
Or several people, just change the questions so that they're.
Just so, yeah.
You know, and I also think part of it is the day that you fill this out.
Oh, sure.
If something's going on, I mean, it could change in a week, some of the answers. So,
Or minutes or hours. Jim.
right.
Right.
So,
But I know that the confidentiality and the privacy issues, as we all know, by being at some of the conferences, are huge issues in some of the larger school districts.
Yeah.
There's always one or two board members that just do not maintain confidentiality. So I believe we do. I've never heard anybody say, Lee told me about, you know.
I mean, it's filed away, and yeah, the file doesn't go, we go back in here.
Well, and you would hear about it in this town.
Oh, for
Right.
sure.
It's small.
Okay, anything else on the survey before we move along? Thank you, everyone, for doing that. Meeting minutes, that's consent, personnel matters. As we move into this section, allow me to remind everyone that we do have a executive session at the end. So if any of these items you would like to discuss in a more confidential manner, any appointments or resignations or what have you, then we can certainly bring that up when we do go into executive session. So with that being said, the teaching staff retirement, the recommended action is upon recommendation of the superintendent, accept the retirement of Patricia Uliva, kindergarten teacher at the elementary school, effective December 2nd, 2020, with all retiree benefits as outlined in Article 17 of the LPEA negotiated agreement dated July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. May I have a motion, please?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Who was the first, Mark?
I think it was Colleen, wasn't it?
Yes.
And seconded by Joan.
Yes, yes.
Any discussion?
Will be greatly missed.
Yeah, she's a wonderful, just wonderful teacher. So talented. Just tough shoes to fill.
Yeah, it was, I can't remember whether it was joint, I think I had two kindergarten teachers, but either way, she was around when I was in kindergarten here, and I'm having a little bit of an existential moment right now about how, you know, just kind of gone full circle, and so she'll definitely be missed.
Roger, your comments were excellent. They covered the game. It's great.
So we have 6 yes, 1 no by Brian Lampanelli.
6 yes, 1 no.
Okay, how am I gonna no get in there? I didn't mean to do that.
Do you want it to be a yes?
Yes, I want to be a yes.
Okay.
I thought you were just refusing.
I thought you were just,
to
yeah.
I think
It's-
so.
It might be an appropriate statement. We don't want her to
You
retire.
don't want her to leave.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah. And it is, you know, it's always unfortunate when the reasoning for her retirement in this
Yes.
case is what it is, which is the whole COVID situation. Because she would have, I know that she would have been happy to stay longer, but things happen. And that should not detract from all that she's accomplished and all that she's given this district. So, you know, my hat's off to Pat Uliva on this night.
Thank you. So it's 7 yes, 0
Yes,
no. The
correct.
motion passes. 7B and 7C are both consent. 7D is a CSEA staff resignation. Recommended action upon recommendation of the superintendent, accept the resignation of employee 815 effective October 19th, 2020. I have a motion to accept this resignation.
Second.
Who was the first? Thank you.
Not recognizing voices.
No.
If you would, please vote.
Seven yes.
7 yes, 0 no. The resignation is accepted. Action items. Any discussion about the November 3rd packet, special education? And if not, any good of the cause, Carrie?
No.
Okay, go into the adjournment phase. Next meeting date and location, the next meeting is scheduled for November 3rd. That's the one that, Martha, would you like to?
Yes.
I would like to suggest that we not meet November 3rd and meet another Tuesday instead, because it is election night and some of us think it might be the most important election of our life. And we might not be at home with our families.
I agree.
Any other comments on? We'd have to come up with an alternative date. The following meeting is on November 17th,
And we would need to meet before then,
so the 10th.
at least, yeah. So I know there'll be at least one action that we need to take before November 15th.
Tuesday the 10th.
I have a conflict that night, and I'll see if I can.
I think we're closed the following day, the 11th, aren't we, Roger? Isn't Veterans Day somewhere in there?
That's right.
The 11th.
So the 11th is Veterans Day, and the 11th we are closed, yes.
Does it have to be on a Tuesday night? I mean, could you do a
No.
different night that first week of November?
Yeah, there's no limit.
Any suggestions?
Not Friday night.
Not Friday night. I like that.
Other than that,
What's the sports schedule look like?
Yeah, the sports are pretty much over by November 7th.
So we have November 2nd, which is a Monday, November 4th, which is a Wednesday.
The other thing you could do if you thought, and I don't know, Karen, you have a sense for what the upcoming agenda items will be. You could combine the November meetings into just one and put it on the 10th or a day like that.
Boys soccer does have a soccer game on Wednesday the 4th. Girls soccer is on Thursday.
the second,
The 5th.
or the other idea is to have a mega meeting. Okay.
I mean, Roger, you brought up a good idea. If we don't have a lot on the agenda, to combine it into one meeting.
We could potentially, do you know?
Um,
We have some presentations. We have the construction updates. And special ed.
Special ed and,
Yeah, we could put that off.
the only thing we're gonna do on the 17th right now is that I have is the appointing the winter coaches.
Which
And
we're
anything
gonna
else you
wait on,
might have.
which we're not gonna do by then. So, because we don't
That's
know,
gonna be tough.
it's gonna be delayed.
It's just we have school in the winter.
Yeah, we're not sure where that's gonna go, and we haven't heard anything in terms of guidance, so I would suggest that maybe that's one of those postponed items.
Yeah, if you think running in a mess, or wait till your mess freezes.
Yeah,
Yeah, the winter
John,
sports.
I talked to John today about that. He said he would like to do that at the 17th meeting. Because then they start, I guess, November 30th was the change.
Yeah, now.
Right. He said
That's
he's
true.
ready for it whenever.
okay. Well, we could be ready on the 10th then.
So
Isn't that when Rick had a conflict?
I do, but I'm only one person, so.
What if we did the 9th? It's a Monday night.
I can possibly move my conflicts. So let's go with the 10th, November 10th. And if we find we need another meeting, we may have to have one closer to Thanksgiving,
Right.
20, whatever. Got that, Karen?
So, not do a mega meeting on the 10th, but,
Well, try, but if there's items that come up, which,
so you wouldn't meet on the 17th at all?
correct.
So we could put that, make that an effort in our agenda setting meeting to set up one November meeting. If it doesn't look like it's gonna work, then we could just plan another one.
Do the 10th and the 17th.
Right,
We've
Right.
done back to back.
right, absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
You're good. Old business
I
topics?
don't have to take notes.
You
That's
know.
right. You got a lot of note taking.
Sweat off my back.
You may have to run the meeting.
That's easier.
I was gonna do it from election
That
day.
that is helpful for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Old business, anything? If not, new business topics? If all is silent, then proposal to go into executive session, recommended action is a motion to enter into executive session for the purposes of discussing the sabbatical leave proposals. I have a motion.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
Yes,
Colleen,
yes.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 7-4-0 against. We are in executive session.
Karen, do you want to turn off the YouTube?